I would much rather not have a SWAT team rush into my house with out. One wrong move and I would have not been here right now.
So recently there's been some extremely serious drama involving the very popular Roblox game Forsaken, with the creator and co-creator of the game receiving daily threats of being swatted and even people threatening to them in real life. So today we will debunk the false allegations being directed towards So and Antitheses and defend them from the onslaught of harassment, as well as getting on call with them later on so we can share their side of the story. So please make sure to leave a like and help this video reach more people, and let's get into it because I will cover absolutely everything in this video. So for quick context, Forsaken is a very popular and fast-growing Roblox horror game created by souldrivenlove, aka Soul, and essentially it bears similarities to Escape the Facility or Survive the Killer, where essentially one player is able to become a Roblox creepypasta-orientated myth, such as John Doe or Cool Kid or 1x1x1, and the other players must survive until the timer ends, and completing certain tasks helps reduce the time quicker. Now, due to the very fast rise in popularity that the game has culminated, many users started digging into the past of Soul, being the owner of the game, and had found out their past alias was Robotic Developer, which Soul is very open about regardless. Now, Robotic Developer was the creator of Friday Night Bloxing, and has a very long history of controversies and allegations levied against them, in which I had originally made a document covering back in 2023. However, after looking over the situation in more depth, much of the information is completely taken out of context, over-exaggerated, or just flat-out false. So allow me to address many of the claims levied and rectify any past mistakes I made in this video when covering this. So timestamps will be provided for each individual subject, so it's easier for you to navigate across this long video. So essentially, the allegations against Soul rebounded after a user named Zenva made 2 videos on YouTube accusing them of being a Now, for a distinct clarification, Soul was born in March the 20th, 2007, meaning they are currently 17 turning 18. Now, Zenva makes it no secret that they made these videos because they knew it would get them views and traction, and they are seen showing heavily out of context screenshots in which were taken from 2021 when Soul was about 13 years of age, meaning by legal definition, they can't be classified as a even if the allegations were somehow true. Now, for clarification, the plethora of messages made by Soul in reference to them having illicit material were extremely edgy rage bait comments they made to get attention at the time, and as a joke to which other people were also engaging with. Now, I'm not saying that these comments are necessarily excusable or ever should have been made, but these rage bait statements were not indicative of any actual admission, and they were most certainly not true.
In terms of like the thing where it's like me saying I have like or something, that's 100% just an edgy joke. I've never had in my life. I don't really know what else I could say about it. It's just a really stupid comment I made when I was really little. So yeah.
And regarding the other screenshots that I use against you, for example, I'll post my here in a bit. That's of course just like edgy teenage humor that a lot of people have made beforehand as well, right?
Yeah, it is. I'm not saying I'm like proud of it or anything. I don't think it's like a good thing to say that kind of stuff. I think that's just stupid and edgy, if anything. But like, it's not something I would say again today, because again, I was like 12, 13, 14.
Another thing to clarify is that due to the ongoing harassment that Soul has been facing for many years now, this has actually resulted in them being swatted numerous times, in which we will address much later on in this video. And in one specific situation, the police had taken Soul's hard drive and scanned their computer, and found literally no content whatsoever, proving that Soul possessed no illicit material at all. And when people had called the police over to your house as well, the police had taken your computers, scanned your hard drive, and they found no images or illicit images on your computer as well.
Yeah, no, they found nothing. And that happened twice, mind you, so after 2 searches, there was nothing bad whatsoever.
Now, a screenshot that still continues to make the rounds against Soul, aka Robo, which was actually ironically covered by an infamous Roblox named Nephorix, was what seemed to have been an anonymous user sharing that Robo had sent them an illicit video of 3. Now, when I spoke to Soul about this situation and this specific screenshot, they state that they were actually being impersonated, and the person who actually ran this fake Robo account was someone named Fungus, who was far more disturbed and is actually still currently in prison after being arrested for someone. Now, allow me to introduce you all to another user named Isabel or Potato Isaiah. This user used to date Robo for a short period of time, and even worked on the dev team for FNB, being Friday Night Bloxin. However, they decided to remove Isaiah due to them being horrible and having a bad influence on the game. So in response, Isaiah made it their life's mission to consistently attack Soul, such as asking for their address, posting their personal information, and making fun of their from when they were younger, and even using burners on Twitter to further harass them, one specific example being PewDieFan93, to which they even admitted to operating. Now, Isaiah at first had openly come out stating that Robo has specifically shown them illicit material and content. However, due to the long history of Isaiah's malicious behavior, it brings into question the legitimacy of their claims. This is even more suspicious when Isaiah states herself that she has no proof towards her allegations, and the fact she didn't even report this alleged content to the police beforehand casts even more doubt on the validity of the situation. The claims made by Isaiah are just unsubstantiated testimony as of now, which seems to have been made by a disgruntled ex-developer because they had a massive vendetta against Robo, so it is essentially in their best interest to lie about them. So when I asked Soul about their stance on Isaiah and the claims that she made, this is what she had to say. Would you like to give like some background context to like Isaiah's history of like lying and manipulating the truth and some of the things they've done as well, such as I believe
Yeah, so I used to know Isabel back when I was little. We used to work on Friday Night Bloxin together, which is one of my older games, and I eventually had to kick them off the team because they were just insanely controversial and wouldn't stop saying all these like weird homophobic comments despite being gay themselves. They got really upset after they were kicked, so they started going on this like huge hate parade on my name and spreading all this like weird information about me that wasn't true whatsoever. They started saying stuff about me sharing, about me having images of like on my Discord server somewhere. However, none of that was true. I've been in several GCs with my friends and they say that I've sent like videos. Those also aren't true at all. I'm still in contact with some of the devs that they claim have seen that content, and they can attest that they've never seen me post anything like that whatsoever. It's just really weird generally. I know that they also have a pretty awkward past themselves with being around like CZ Red. However, I can't really add on to that because I'm not well versed on it. I just know that they were in contact for much longer than they ever should have, especially since they knew that CZ Red was a so just kind of odd.
And they also have a history of sharing illicit content as well.
Yeah, they share a lot of weird stuff about themselves. I remember in FNB they used to do that actually, with random people. They would show like pictures of themselves in very manners, and it was just very, very, very weird.
A lot of this is just seeming to be like a disgruntled person trying to unearth or create fake information just to spite you and to try and get like revenge or a one-up.
Yeah.
Now, in regards to the PewDieFan93 burner account on Twitter, to which we know is operated by Isaiah, who is someone who has allegations of having sent disgusting content of themselves to other people, Isaiah had also used this account and alias to also numerous other people and harass them, and had also harassed Robo and even leaked her face. The PewDieFan93 burner account is also seen making a lot of jokes around what they are trying to claim as illicit material in which Robo had apparently posted, which is not only extremely unprofessional behavior, but also shows how they're not taking the situation seriously whatsoever. This is also complicated with the fact that Isaiah, the person who runs this account, literally has a very long and intricate disgusting history of having similar behaviors too, in which many people can actually attest to. Now, when being asked about the context of the images that PewDieFan93 was posting, Soul states that they were 14 and would often at times send images they found on Google and send them to people or put them in a storage server. Here's what they had to say.
So the one where I say like I have some saved, that's like basically just the equivalent of looking up like on Google and saving something from there. It's like, it's not a young kid, it's like definitely someone who's probably in their 20s, 30s, because I wouldn't assume that Google has been hosting for free like that.
And as Soul stated, there is an extremely low chance that Google would ever have hosted illicit content, which is being described here, and furthermore, there'd be no way to even prove that this was even of a It's also important to disclose the fact that Soul would have been 14 at this point, and while this behavior can be criticized as perhaps degenerative, this would not be indicative of, and this doesn't appear to be anything inherently malicious either. Isaiah, under this PewDieFan93 account, had ample opportunity to report this to the police had it actually been material, but instead they just chose to make memes of it, which says everything you need to know about this situation. Isaiah is even seen using other images against Robo completely taken out of context, and when confronted they back down and continue to look immature, so that shows how credible they are regarding this all. Now moving back to Zenva, and now that the allegations are clarified and more context is introduced, we will now cover the allegations in which they bring up. Now, throughout the years, screenshots of Robo from 2020 or 2021 have been used against them to bash them as some sort of bigot all the way up to the year 2025. Now, for context, yes, these screenshots were real, however, they were literally 4 to 5 years old. At this time, Soul would have been 13 to 14 years of age, and what they had said and did back then isn't indicative of the person they are today. Soul is approaching adulthood, and it's extremely silly and petty to be consistently and continuously dragging someone down for comments that they've already apologized for. Soul even goes to detail in a document they made describing everything that happened to them when they were younger, and explained how due to them being involved in and oftentimes toxic communities, such as communities made around the Roblox game Reasons to Die Awakening, they believed that the behavior was acceptable, and they picked up on the bad traits around them because the community was extremely toxic, which had an especially bad effect on Robo, aka Soul, because in 2018 when they first joined into this community, they were 11 years old and extremely impressionable. Now, when I asked Soul about this situation too, they clarified that they had rectified their past mistakes by donating money to the NAACP and other charities. And that brings me to another thing as well, which is the allegations. For example, when people bring up some comments you made regarding like the N-word like 3 to 4 years ago. From what I've heard, you've rectified that situation. First of all, you showed no ill intent to anyone of any ethnicity or anything like that, and you've also donated to a lot of charities, I believe. Do you want to go over a few of them?
Yeah, I know that one of them was the NAACP, and another one was like something about it wasn't BLM, although I did want to donate to that at one point. It was I forget the name. I think it was Thurgood Marshall. It was something to do with Thurgood Marshall funds. But yeah, there were a few charities I donated to, but those two were the recognizable ones. Yeah, especially the NAACP.
Clearly you haven't engage in idiot behavior again, and it's just people using it in bad faith against you. What's even funnier is the person who's trying to use those screenshots against you is on Twitter making like bigoted, transphobic comments and stuff like that. And originally their 2 videos on you as well were falsely accusing you of being, but then they decided to completely change those titles to alleviate pressure off themselves. And then when you and Anth decided to make that space, they decided to try and play victim as well in their whole ordeal, which is very odd. Now, as explained in a call I had with Soul, Zenva, the original creator of the 2 hit piece videos on Soul, had actually pretty ironically engaged in bigoted behavior themselves, with them stating non-binary people have a mental illness, or even being seen on Twitter threatening to strike people who call them out, being especially transphobic on numerous occasions, and even making fun of someone being deported. So clearly there is a major form of hypocrisy here. Now, after Zenva's first video, he was actually confronted by a friend of Soul and Anthesis, who I will anonymize, and this user had pressed Zenva on the very heavy claims that he levied against Soul, and if there was any more substance on the illicit material allegations other than Isaiah's unsubstantiated testimony. Zenva, in response, maliciously frames their question into them somehow requesting to see the illicit content, and then makes yet another video on the situation trying to collectively make them all look bad. Now back to the DMs of Zenva being confronted, and Zenva was asked on why they started purporting Isaiah's testimony despite their history of being a disgruntled harasser and a liar. Zenva claims that he quote-unquote doesn't know the person, and that there is no proof that they're lying. Well, actually Zenva, there's far more proof to show that Isaiah doesn't have the best background, rather than proof to show that they are some sort of reliable figure or source.
I'll forward them here the original conversation with Zenva And it's full because when we originally tried speaking to them, they released the part 2 of the call-out video and took out of context screenshots from it and tried to paint us out as if we were asking him for, which was not the case at all. We were asking him for proof if Robo, slash Soul had ever sent anybody, and instead of actually giving it to us, they called us disgusting and put it in the video and tried telling everybody that we had asked them to send us. Not sure why. Not to mention their incredibly disingenuous and awful behavior towards other people. We've uncovered a lot of their Twitter responses of them utilizing against trans people, being incredibly towards those of Hispanic origins, wishing for others to be deported after Trump was run into office. Just generally very disrespectful and very weird behavior, and I find it incredibly hypocritical for them to be acting this way considering what they're trying to call out, Soul for.
And then, as a result from Zenva's 2 videos on Soul, this caused a plethora of people to start spreading false allegations against them. Users such as Toast and Topaz started harassing anyone associated with Soul in hope that they would disassociate from her. And the username Topaz as well started hurling insults at them and admitted to co-owning an account made purely to harass Soul and compare them to the German man. It was at this time too where Topaz was seen consistently begging me to make some sort of video on the situation, having the audacity to consult me when he literally co-owned an account with a friend that was also harassing me at the exact same time. Now this is what Antitheses have to say regarding the harassment from Zenva and their associates.
And even then, when we tried speaking to Zenva, we were met by nothing but mockery and essentially harassment by their friends in their own Discord server, calling us, pinging us in announcements and making a special role for us, which was originally called, and trying to out us, and then repeatedly pinging us, mocking us, and everything else. So for people who are trying to make allegations and calling somebody up, they don't take the situation very seriously, and I don't get it. I really don't. It's very frustrating to deal with, and me and Soul have still been dealing with people harassing both of us throughout, whether it be games, through the Discord, through Twitter. I mean, our own contributors have been dealing with this, being harassed needlessly by people who are either associated with Zenva or have seen Zenva's videos and simply hate Soul because she's trans. It's a very awful pipeline.
So now we're going to go on to a very serious part of this video, but I definitely feel as if this needs to be addressed. Because unlike the other claims that have been addressed now, I had played a part in spreading these allegations without understanding the proper story or context behind it. So essentially, Zenva and other bad actors oftentimes reference a Robo Exposed document from 2023, in which I had actually created during my drama with them, and I had purported screenshots exposing Robo for their quote-unquote degeneracy from when they were 12 in 2019 to when they were 14 in 2021. Now, a reason for why Soul was overtly at the time of these screenshots being taken has been clearly specified in a document which they had made offering context. Essentially, they had become extremely at the age of 12 as a trauma response to the plethora of horrific things detailed that happened to them in 2019. They highlight how their dog in that year, how they were manipulated into jumping off their roof, to which rendered them in hospital, how they were pressured and blackmailed, and how they were even eventually. But by far the worst situation they detailed was that in 2019, they were and taken off by their middle school teacher, in which is by far one of the most disgusting things that can possibly happen to a And what is even worse was the fact that there were other victims too, and that the person who ended up doing this is still on social media to this day and is not behind bars.
Assaulted's also crazy. I'm gonna pull it up again of my awesome teacher who's not arrested whatsoever. This guy. This is the person who me when I was little. Pretty cool. Teacher charged of under age 16, prosecutor says. He's not arrested, by the way. Like, at all. Hang on, wait. Let me pull it up. Okay, that's his full name. I don't care about revealing it to the world. This guy's I'll see his latest post. This is 14 hours ago. So he's out there. He's not in jail. Not arrested whatsoever. 15 hours ago. Pretty cool. I love America, dude. This is so cool.
This situation too takes an even darker and more depressing turn, because his soul became more as a coping mechanism to be happy and deal with all the trauma that they had developed in the space of a year. The more malicious individuals it attracted to of them, such as a user named Yedlex, who was an 18-year-old when Soul was. In screenshots provided, it is extremely evident that Yedlex was and with Robo when they were being extremely degenerative around them and conditioning them to further behavior when they were at a very young age. Now, in response to the situation, Yedlex admitted that the screenshots were of him, and of course got justified backlash for his actions. However, as detailed by Soul in their document, they were also victim blamed in the situation, and were accused of making the situation up for attention, because the community that they were in was that horrible and callous. This was also followed by Soul mentioning in their document that 2 other users called QWERTY, who was 17, and a user named Greedy had also them. This was also followed by another prominent member of the Reasons to Die community being Egg in 2020, also having been called out for Robo when she was and he was 17. In DMs, Robo is seen stating that they eventually came to terms with the fact that them with each other was bad, to which Egg had the audacity to claim that them stating this was a quote-unquote turn-off for them. In the document too, Robo covers how they were manipulated by another user who they used to vent to as well, who was 14, called Irumi Cat, when Robo was 12.
I used to be in this community called Reason to Die, and there were a lot of awful people in there. Like, it was mixed with a bunch of kids and adults at the same time, and a few of them, notably Yedlex and Egg, and they're the people who actually me as well. There's a lot of stuff that Yedlex did to me. They were 18 while I was just, or barely even, and then there's Egg, and they me when I was just barely, and they were, I think, 17 at the time. I used to be involved in a lot of different cases with a bunch of different people who are way older than me, and they all indoctrinated me into a lot of awful things back then because I just wanted a place to fit in, and I thought that the outlets around me were people that I could trust because they were older and more mature and all that. And they definitely weren't. They were really bad. They were all degenerates who had nothing else going on in their lives other than to be homophobic, transphobic, etc. And they got me into all their awful things when I was little, and it just kind of sucks.
So at this point in the video, after all the proof and testimony shown, it's necessary to state that many screenshots that have been used against Robo, aka Soul, have been extremely bad faith and used maliciously without sufficient context behind them. A lot of this controversy can be easily attributed to the horrific influence the Reasons to Die community had on Soul when she was extremely young and impressionable, and all of the exposed points used against her are just indicative of all the negative effects malicious users have had in conditioning her to have been that way 4 to 5 years ago. She is evidently a changed person who got herself caught up in the wrong pipelines and communities at the time, and she has done her best to rectify her past mistakes and change. Sure, her behavior is criticizable to some degree, but one must understand that her being overtly is a product of her trauma and the environment she's been in, and it most certainly is not cancel-worthy behavior. But let's continue with some of the more miscellaneous claims. Now, another claim used against Robo is the fact that she apparently supported someone being. This screenshot is oftentimes spread by users such as Isaiah on her PewDieFan93 account, and it shows Robo stating, "Not so funny when you're the one being now, is it?" However, this is just one example of a maliciously cropped screenshot, because the entire screenshot shows Robo having stated that they were also not going to let their vendetta convince them that the person deserved what happened to them, and even offer them tips on how to not be in the future, completely debunking any misconception here that Robo supported this person being. Another claim being used is Robo being seen posting the personal information of someone in their DMs, and it's best if Robo explains the situation so you can hear what they have to say about this all. I guess another situation to bring up is this screenshot, which is maliciously taken out of context regarding you, the screenshots. Could you give some background to that?
Okay, yeah, so I'm not going to say that this was, like, an okay thing to do. I'm not going to say it's, like, not as bad as it looks, because it is pretty bad. I was still threatening someone with their own personal information. However, a lot of people say that this is me going out and spreading someone's personal information and, like, publicizing it, like, publishing it onto public sites. I never did that. I never made this person's information public. I never spread it around. I never shared it with anyone I knew. I never went out and actively them or anything like that. I only really collected some small bits about them and sent it back to them, in which they told me that information themselves. So it's kind of like if someone were to tell you, like, hey, my name is XYZ, and then I went later on and said, hey, your name is XYZ. It's definitely in a very bad manner, and I'm not saying it was like a good thing for me to do that whatsoever, but it's not. I never publicized this guy's information, and he's fine. We're friends now even, so we're both chill. We're not like against each other. We're not enemies or anything like that, so
You
we're
both
good.
have like ended the drama, you're both good friends now, and
Yeah.
people who are using this don't understand like the full context of the situation, and both of you just wish to move on as well, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, this was not an actual case of publicizing someone's personal information. However, Soul does take accountability for the fact that it was rather malicious. However, she shows proof that, in fact, her and this user are actually on good terms and are friends to this day. Now, another large claim being thrown around is what seems to have been Soul, aka Robo, admitting to credit card fraud. However, Soul very easily addresses this situation in her Discord server by stating that she merely just lied and over-exaggerated the situation for attention at the time that she made this message, and all she essentially did was just steal someone's lunch money. Here's what she had to say about this. The credit card fraud, oh no.
God.
One of the main things that people try and use is a gotcha point. Would you like to give some background context to that as well, and also what you meant by, because a lot of people try and overthink it when you say that they saw a lot of bad things, credit card fraud being one on your computer. So would you like to give some context to that?
Okay, yeah, so this entire thing is just me stealing someone's lunch money. Like, okay, so I know in the image it shows me saying like, hey, I was exiled into my room because my parents found that I had ruined someone's life via credit card fraud, blah blah blah, stuff like that. But that was just me lying, like straight up. Same with the lot of bad things on my computer, that was also just me lying. They never really looked into my computer, I just made all that up because I was a kid who wanted attention from others. I'm not saying that's a cool thing either. I know I'm saying a lot about this, like, the stuff I did being really bad, but like, it's not as bad as people are painting it out to be, and I'm really annoyed by that fact. Just to give like more background on like what I meant by stealing someone's lunch money, I used to have this like school friend who ended up treating me really poorly because they found that I liked making Roblox games online, and they would make fun of me, they would like go online and spread my information around, they would try and poke fun at me in school. They would do a lot of like really rude stuff. They even got a picture of my dad's credit card once, which is really annoying. But the worst I ever did back is I literally just stole their lunch money. That was it. Like, I didn't go commit credit card fraud. I didn't go do like cyber crimes or whatever. I just stole their lunch money. That was it. Just to mention it again, my parents never looked into my computer. They never saw anything bad. That was just me lying again because I wanted attention from people who were as bad as I used to be. If not, then worse.
And in relation to the aforementioned credit card fraud claim, someone else had leaked messages of Robo alleging that they had stolen someone's credit card information, but as specified by Soul, it was just an expired Visa gift card. Here's what they had to say. And regarding that one screenshot where they were trying to claim, oh, you posted someone's credit card, that was a gift card, right? An out-of-date one?
Yeah, it was like an expired Visa gift card that I had, and I just wanted to post it to look more like legitimate. But that's not someone's credit card. That was just a Visa gift card that I had that had no money on it. It was expired, so.
Now, another thing to address is the pretty low point that many people have attempted to use against Robo, which lacks a lot of proper context behind it. I do myself take accountability for the fact that I played a part in it too, but I do find it extremely hypocritical that people like Nephorix think that they have the ability to talk about something like this despite all the horrible things they have done themselves.
Unfortunately, Robo, your mother was still posting on TikTok. Beyond the grave. Like, I mean, very impressive. I do have to give it to her. It's almost like Robo is a manipulative liar who constantly seeks attention and approval from people. Still lies about serious things to garner publicity and to victimize themselves.
Ironic.
But essentially, there is a claim floating around that Robo faked and lied about her mother's. However, this claim is made to seem much more malicious than it actually is. And once again, I believe that Robo can fluently explain this situation, because it is something very personal to them, and I do not wish to speak on their behalf in regards to this.
Yeah, so there was this period of time in my life where my mom was in the hospital. It was about like a month long, and my dad started a lot because of it. I started feeling like because of it. It was just generally a really awful time. And there was this guy who called from the hospital, said that things weren't really looking good. They said that things are probably not going to be okay on her end. However, thank God they were. But after that, me and my dad started freaking out way more. Things were really, really bad. And I eventually had a time where I would go online and say, oh, my mom's dead, because I was just that freaked out about it. And thank God she wasn't. She ended up okay. We're all happy in our family now. However, I still did like lie about her, and I didn't really know how to come back from that because a lot of people were already feeling way too empathetic and like just kind of worried about how I was doing because of what happened with my mother. However, it never actually happened to her, thank God. I had no idea what to do about it. However, I eventually came clean from it one day. Like, I think it was sometime in 2022 when I told people about how it was just me lying about it. And they understood. However, it's still something that I feel awful about, and I don't really hold it in any good light whatsoever. I think that it was an awful situation of mine. I think I should have been much more patient and understanding, and I shouldn't have really lied about something that serious, because I know that there are people out there who have had those things happen to them, and it's awful. I feel awful for them. But yeah, there's not much else I could really say about it. It was just me being really dumb and overreacting at the time.
Robo has clearly made it known that they are remorseful and apologetic to those who she wasn't transparent with regarding this situation, and has openly taken accountability for it all. It was a very traumatic and stressful period for both them and their family, so for it to be used as some grandiose expose point against them is both gross and unprofessional, and for that I apologize for going into it myself without acknowledging the full context at the time back in 2023. Now, another claim is that Robo made towards people, and while on the outside it is absolutely criticizable for them to have ever stated what they said, one must understand that she made this when she was 13 to 14, and that there was no actual form of intent behind what she was saying, obviously. Children say a lot of emotionally charged things in anger at their age, and I'm not trying to excuse the fact she ever said it. It was a bad thing to say and should not have been said, but to warp it as some genuine is not true, and it's not based in any sense of reality whatsoever. And she's clearly apologized and moved on from this as well, and has not replicated said behavior again. Now, another miscellaneous claim used in documents is Robo's apparent gambling from back in 2021, so they would have been 14. And I have no idea why this is included in documents with other much more serious allegations. I have no idea if this is to beef up exposed documents on them and to add more content, but once again, Soul clarifies the situation and establishes the fact that they did not have a gambling addiction, and that they actually lost a lot of Robux when gambling. They had just lied about gaining anything to seem cool at the time to their friends. Of course, the gambling allegations as well.
Oh, God.
Just to re-clarify that situation, do you want to give some context to that as well?
Yeah, okay, so there used to be this like Roblox website called RBX Flip, and I used to go on there every now and then. I did not make 50,000 USD. I was lying my ass off. I wasn't some like huge massive gambling addict either. I was just a kid who felt like, wow, dude, I'm gambling, that's so cool. If anything, I actually lost a lot of money because of it. So I wouldn't say it's like real money. I lost like 300,000 rap on Roblox because of that site. It was really, really bad at one point. But yeah, that's kind of it. I never really made a lot from it. I was just a dumb kid.
Insane that people were trying to like merge that with like serious allegations to try to like spite you. But
it's really crazy.
So now that we have clarified all of the old allegations, let's address the new claims in which were being made. So essentially, a user on Twitter named Unpolilua made a small thread alleging that Robo caused them to lose most of their friends and contact with others. They further state that Robo caused them to try themselves more than 5 times in the span of 6 months. Unpolilua states, quote-unquote, "You hid yourself by creating a new identity to escape from everything you did in your past." They added, quote-unquote, "You never had remorse for any of your actions and you will never change as a person." They finish off by stating, quote-unquote, "If you're reading this, Robo, I hope you never have a platform anymore. I hope you never manipulate anyone anymore, and I hope you stop lying to others." Now, Robo, aka Soul, clapped back with a response document highlighting that they changed alias to avoid the hate and harassment that befell them when they went under the robotic developer alias, because they couldn't deal with the constant and swatting that came from it all. They highlight how much regret and guilt they feel for their past actions, and Soul also goes on to show proof of them genuinely being concerned for Lua in tweets that they had made, further going on to establish that she is not to blame for the issues inflicted due to Lua's own actions. Soul establishes that, quote-unquote, as said before, I did nothing but listen to you when you needed it and responded with advice that would have helped you. And Soul even goes out to show evidence in this Google document that Lua has far more skeletons in their closet than what they try and claim Soul does. Soul shows proof of Lua, aka Ash, posting numerous examples of depicting many characters drawn as which is extremely concerning behavior. Now, as a result, Unpoly Lua proceeded to have numerous extended mental breakdowns and went completely inactive on Twitter as of January the 4th, 2025. Now, I really do hope that they're fine and haven't actually done anything to themselves despite the past mistakes that they have done. They did detail themselves that they were also a victim of and had become because of it. So once again, despite it not being a legitimate defense for liking said egregious and problematic content, it is an explanation for why they believe the content was okay to consume and distribute at the age of 15 to 16. However, they did clarify that they were getting therapy from it all. Now, when I consulted Soul about all of this drama in private, this is what she had to say.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so there's this person named Apple, or Unpoly Lua, who made this thread about me being a manipulator or a liar because of me moving on to a new identity. Their main point against me being a manipulator was them showing screenshots of them venting to me. I don't really know why they're using that as evidence, because if anything it shows that I cared about them as a friend more than anything, and that's the entire backbone of their thread. It's just the fact that they vented to me about some situations that were going on in their lives. Something else that they said in the thread was the fact that my friends were pressuring them into not revealing anything about my identity to the world, and they used this as supporting evidence, which is just something that I'm really confused about, because the main reason why I moved onto this identity as souldrivenlove is because I didn't want to be swatted or harassed anymore. And what said is very true. I would much rather not have a SWAT team rush into my house with out and point those to my head or my family's heads, because that's happened before and it was really terrifying. One wrong move and I would have not been here right now. So the fact that Unpoly Lua is trying to use that as evidence about why they're being manipulated and trying to paint them as a victim because of that is really weird to me. And there's another thing that's also just really weird to me about how Unpoly Lua is saying that I was making fun of all the and trying to push in this. However, that's also just not true, because in private I would also express much worry and concern for this person. After every time that they would post about their attempts, every time they would post about how awful they're doing, I would be there most of the time and I would always show genuine worry and concern. They also say that my friends have been making fun of them as well. However, that's also not true, as seen in this screenshot right here, where we're all just feeling bad. It's a really bad thing. We were all seeing everything that was happening to Unpoly Lua and we all just felt awful for them. The screenshots the messages highlighted in the yellow box are me, by the way. And generally just everything that happened to Unpoly Lua is awful. However, the fact that they're trying to push it onto me as if I'm the reason why they feel like that is really weird. And not to mention that the person is also just incredibly questionable in their own right, because they've been interested in for as long as since I believe 2023, and with the most recent evidence of it being in November of 2024. And it's just very odd to me. Not to say that they haven't been into it, because this is 100% a result of someone them when they were little. However, it's just very odd that they still keep up with this behavior as they're entering into being 17 years old.
Now, the final allegation to address is the game situation, in which has been brought up quite a lot recently and has been talked about on a lot of platforms, such as Soyjack Party. Basically, there was a screenshot of Robo going around being present in this game, and her apparently having a badge, and essentially people have used this situation to somehow call Soul a over it, despite the fact there have been no examples of behavior exhibited whatsoever, and there has not even been a single victim coming out here. They have also used these screenshots as a reason to attempt to raid Soul's Discord server, as well as advocate for their personal information to be leaked and to be found, and for them to even be, as well as people even advocating to send her pizzas to her house, and even her in real life. And this wouldn't be the first time that Soul, aka Robo, has experienced egregious forms of and harassment towards them. However, this is just one of the newest examples. Now, when I consulted Soul on her stance regarding these allegations, this is what she had to say. TLDR, there was this person named Patchy that I dated in late 2023 to early 2024 out of my desperation to be with someone who'd give me attention at the time. Something I've always struggled with ever since I was a kid. And they would always pressure me into doing a bunch of stuff that I was always uncomfortable with while we were together. While we were together, I was 16 and they were 18. I was nearly 17 by the time we broke up though. They always frequented Roblox even before we got together, and I only ever found out about it a few months into being with them. However, I never cut ties with them for that, because they would always make that kind of stuff out to be something that seems so much less serious than what it actually was. It was only until after we broke up that I cut off all of that behavior and went back in check, for the most part, with my personal life. Admittedly, I did have times shortly after the breakup where I'd relapse into the behavior they coerced me into, but it was very short-lived and I was mostly back on my feet by April of 2024. But yeah, I have went into a Roblox with them before out of pressure and desperation, and it's not something I look back on fondly. A lot of my active resentment towards that gross part of the Roblox community stems especially from my awful interactions with Patchy and the really gross feelings that they've left me with. I even started utilizing Ruben Sims' anti-bot to completely wipe my game clean of those kinds of people, because I want nothing to do with any of them. So clearly here they've also shown a lot of screenshots to back up and corroborate what they're saying, and there is no evidence as of currently that Soul infatuated herself in communities as of currently, and they have even enforced Ruben Sims' anti-bot to rectify their past mistakes and ensure that or malicious actors are unable to access anywhere in her community. Now, while once again you can criticize Soul for this behavior, it isn't indicative of anything actually malicious or sinister, just rather questionable at most, and harassing or Soul in response to this is not a sufficient way to address a situation like this whatsoever, because the people who do it are only proving themselves to be much worse than what they're trying to criticize here. Now, this actually relates to my final portion of this video, to go over the horrific and egregious examples of harassment Robo has had to endure for their many years of being on the internet. In a document detailing their entire situation that we've addressed before in this video, Robo, aka Soul, detailed an instance where in 2021, the SWAT team had been called on them. For those of you who don't know what swatting is a criminal harassment act of deceiving an emergency service into sending police or emergency service response teams to another person's address to either try and harm them or cause anguish to them. People very evidently continue to swat Robo throughout many years to harass them and to try and harm them and their mental well-being in hopes of deplatforming them off of the internet. Soul describes in their document that, quote-unquote, they saw their dad with a gun held to his head and they saw their mum crying uncontrollably during the entire situation. Soul goes on to state, quote-unquote, and when the SWAT officers and regular officers left our apartment, the fear and sadness hit like a truck. I cried for the entire night and deeper than I ever had before, leaving a few permanent. I don't know if they're permanent, but they're still there as I'm typing this. And she also went on to state there's scars on their And if you think this is bad, it gets so much worse, because Robo showed screenshots of the police having been at her house in 2023, with police in riot gear having been present earlier. Now, when asking Soul on her extensive history of being swatted by malicious actors trying to directly harm her and her family, this is what she's had to say. Do you want to give some background to some of the harassment attempts that people have tried to use against you? For example, when they've tried to call the police to your house or even made like a towards your score?
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot about that. So I think the harassment first started back in maybe early, like very early 2022 when I was first exposed for being a really stupid child. It just kind of continued on from that point. People used the fact that I was doing dumb things as a kid as like a way to segue their way into my life through me, through harassing me, stalking me, sending my school and my dad's office, my school's location, calling the office on my school, calling the cops and telling them to go to my house, just like a lot of other awful like that. I've had my information published on so many different sites. I've had Twitter accounts made of me saying my dead name, my address, my face, and pinning like a bunch of different awful nasty to their page. There's a lot of bad shit that happened, and it all stems from me just being an annoying, dumb, awful kid. And I'm not gonna say that the things I did were fine and that I shouldn't be receiving criticism for it, but I don't really think it warrants that level of harassment, that level of like swatting, all those awful things happening to someone because of the things that they did when they weren't even 14.
Regarding the swatting attempt, when the police were there with like actual, how many times has that happened?
That's happened at least 3 times now. There was a 4th time where the SWAT team did rush in, but they didn't like aim their at my family. They just kind of barged down my door and scanned my room for like and nothing wasn't there.
Like,
so it was just kind of annoying.
Like malicious actors were consistently telling the police that there were like in your house.
Yeah, there was like one time where they said there was a, and there was another where they said they had like 2 of the times they said they had on my computer or like a in my room. Another time they said that I was going to like my family when I got home, and I was already home, so it was just very odd. It was really weird. And the cases that they were all there for is just stupid in my opinion.
Now, before we get to the closing statements of the video, I'd like to also clarify a new situation in which arose while this video was being edited. Essentially, Juno, aka Antitheses, was spam called by a malicious user on the phone, telling her to add them on Discord. Now, when they did end up reaching each other in Discord DMs, the malicious user tells them to comply with their requests to prevent any personal information from being released. They posted Soul's face and requested to receive Roblox Limiteds and half of their items, in which, once given to them, they will leave Juno and Soul alone. They say that they're only doing this for monetary purposes, and then post a screenshot of Soul's school. Once being told that a lot of the info the user had against the mod team was false, the malicious user posts an image of Soul's family and friends to leak her social security number. Juno continues to make fun of the user and calls their bluff, causing the malicious user to ramp up their threats. Now, following this interaction, an Antitheses socials started receiving password reset requests, such as their Twitter, Epic Games, Discord, and even Spotify, which is very troubling to see. And blackmail on this level is incredibly and absolutely disgusting to see, and it's just one of the many examples of harassment that the Forsaken dev team and Soul and Antitheses have to endure on a weekly basis. Now, hopefully this video does its job in helping clarify a lot of the misinformation spread regarding this entire drama, and hopefully the false allegations made against Soul can cease, and what seems to be the never-ending harassment towards them can finally stop too. Zenva has since unlisted both of his videos and attempted to make a 3rd video playing victim, to which was later removed as well. Soycheck Party's threads on the situation have been taken down as well, and it seems as if the drama is officially dying off for good. Hopefully this video does well as to rectify my past mistakes as well in creating that document in the first place with unsubstantiated evidence lacking context, and I wish the best for Soul and Antitheses and their game moving on to the future. But anyway, for clarification as this video ends, this video is not intended for hate, harassment, or cyberbullying whatsoever. This video is instead intended for educational and informative purposes only, going over the entire situation as a whole in a documentary style context. I'd also like to clarify that this video is intended for more mature audiences as well, as more mature themes are discussed, so viewer discretion is of course advised. All necessary content has been sufficiently blurred, and this video complies with all of YouTube's community guidelines, such as the YouTube Child Safety Guidelines. And with that all being said, thank you all for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new, and comment your opinions down below about this entire situation, and join my Discord server to contact me if you want. My Discord is discord.gg/Parlo, and with that all being said, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Goodbye.